Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Lamentations chapter 3, verses 1 through 30. I guess I've said Jeremiah so many times. I can't say Lamentations now. Starting in chapter 3, this is where we turn, and there's this picture of hope right here in the middle of chapter 3. We looked at it on Sunday morning in depth, and so you'll feel just the pain and the torment that the people of Israel are going through, and then you hear this hope. They're right there in the middle of chapter 3. Remember, this is the third poem. I am the man who has seen affliction under the rod of his wrath. Now, what is interesting is I am taking this as being Jeremiah, as far as the one that has written this and put it together. It may very well be that he has not. It's traditionally ascribed to him, but there are some references here that it's as if Jeremiah is the one that has been doing the sin. And we know that obviously throughout the book of Jeremiah, he was the one suggesting that the people turn back to God and they turn away from their sinful ways and they embrace what is good and what is right. Of course, that does not mean Jeremiah was a perfect man. He sinned. He did things that were wrong, but he was not participating in the gross sins that the people of Judah were doing. So probably when Jeremiah is penning this, he is penning it in the words of the nation, so that anyone that participated in the crimes and the horrendous actions that the people of Judah were doing and the people of Jerusalem were doing, he's writing it in a way that they could confess their sins and lament what they have done. So I am the man. He is under the rod of his wrath. The whole nation is under the rod of God's wrath. And so obviously this is not clearly something to confess, but by implication, if we are being punished by God, if we are eating the consequences of our actions, then those consequences are by nature the wrath of God, the rod of God to correct us if we are his children. And so if there's something that you have disobeyed the Lord with, it would be wise to confess it. It wouldn't just be wise, it's the thing that you need to do. It's the only way for health is for you to confess and walk with a good Christian brother or sister through this issue. The rod of his wrath. We do not want to experience that wrath. He has driven and brought me into darkness without any light. Surely against me he turns his hand again and again the whole day long. He has made my flesh in my skin waste away. He has broken my bones. You just see the pain here. He has besieged and enveloped me with bitterness and tribulation. Just the pain that the people are going through because they have sinned against God and their precious city has been destroyed and they are in exile. Here's an attitude for us to adopt. He has made me dwell in darkness like the dead of long ago. We do have to recognize that God is in charge. And so since he is in charge, everything he does is approved by him, especially when consequences are coming our way. And so it is good for us to realize that God is in charge. He can redeem all that is wrong, and that he will even use his corrective rod in our life to help us, to cause us to be more like him. God is truly in charge of all things in this world. Nothing happens apart from him approving it and allowing it to happen. He has walled me about so that I cannot escape. So you see the intensity of this punishment, of these consequences. God is surrounding them so they can't get out. He has made my chains heavy. Though I call and cry for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways with blocks of stones. He has made my paths crooked. The punishment of God is very severe. He is a bear lying in wait for me. What more terrible way to describe the consequences that they're going through than saying that God's a bear. He's a lion in hiding. He turned aside my steps and tore me to pieces. He has made me desolate. And again, they could have avoided this. This is their own doing. He has bent his bow and set me as a target for his arrow. He is being, the people of Judah are being extremely disciplined for what they have done. He drove into my kidneys the arrows of his quiver. I have become the laughing stock of all peoples, the object of their taunts all day long. He has filled me with bitterness. He has sated me with wormwood. So here, bitter things that are coming into his body, making the body sick. There's just this overwhelming feeling of sickness in this body, and that can happen, especially emotional pain and just learning to live in your mind with your consequences of your sinful actions. Oh, it can do just a number on your body and do a lot of stress and just make you very uneasy. Again, saying God has done this. This is the consequences for his action, or for their action as a nation. He has made my teeth grind on gravel, made me cower in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say my endurance has perished. So is my hope from the Lord. It's just, we're done for. Remember my afflictions and my wanderings, the wormwood and the gall, beginning to call to the Lord now. God, this is just terrible. This is awful. Will you please remember? Will you look at it? Will you understand what I'm going through? Of course, God does know, but it's good for us to pray and to ask God to intervene and to work, even in the midst of experiencing our own consequences of our own actions. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. I'm remembering what I'm going through. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Here's where we turn. Here's where there's just a big jewel here within this book of Lamentations. The steadfast of the Lord never ceases. And all of this that the Lord is doing, in all of this that he's allowing these consequences into my life, clearly because of my actions, his strong love, his steadfast love, his everlasting kindness never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. What a sweet, sweet promise. And if you did not listen to yesterday's sermon, I encourage you to listen through that, where I walk through that much more. But just a sweet, sweet promise here in the middle of the book of Lamentations. And here's an example for us to follow. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. That should be our statement every day. Lord, we want you more than your gifts. We want you to be in our life. I care more about having a relationship with you, Lord, than any of the blessings that you have given me. That should be our example. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Here's another promise. We're told by Jesus that if you knock, the door will be open to you. If you ask, you will be given. We're told to continually keep on knocking, to keep on requesting from the Lord, and then to wait patiently for him to move. It says that the Lord is good to those who wait for him. Are you a bit impatient? Is there something that you're just wishing God would hurry up and fix? It is good for you to wait on the Lord. And again, as we wait on the Lord, what are we reminded of? That the Lord is our portion. It's the Lord that we need, not his gifts. So oftentimes in the waiting, that's when we realize, oh, you know what? I'm actually loving his gifts more than I'm loving him. So God is good to those who wait for him. It is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And again here, remember, in context, we're talking about salvation from their own consequences. We're talking about not that there is some enemy or some sort of natural disaster or just some sort of natural health problems that come our way. Those aren't consequences for sins. That is just us living in a broken, fallen world. We're talking about salvation from are consequences. We're talking about getting through the consequences to where there's a point where the equilibrium, if you will, in our souls and in our bodies has evened back out. It is good that we should wait quietly, not like telling the Lord that he needs to hurry up. It is good for a man that he bear the yoke in his youth, that he does the work early on in his life. Let him sit alone in silence when it is laid on him. Here's a good example about how to bear these consequences. Let him put his mouth in the dust, there may yet be hope. So let him put his mouth in the dust. Let him voluntarily accept the consequences. We have that we have that saying, eat my dust, right? If you're running or in a race, taking off and making them eat the dust, or maybe even falling down into the ground. So that should be the imagery of being defeated. And what the example here is that this needs to be a willing acceptance of defeat. We need to put our mouth in the dust. We need to accept the consequences, knowing that on the other side of them, there may yet be hope. Here's a command to follow. Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes, and let him be filled with insults. This, I can't help but think of Jesus as saying, what he says, if someone strikes you on the cheek, turn to him the other also. And so this is a command for us to follow, is that we need to make sure that we are turning the other cheek, that we are not retaliating against those that are coming against us. We need to be willing to absorb quite a bit of consequences on ourselves, especially when those are connected to sin. And so you cannot do something bad, you cannot do something wrong, and then when the people around you are upset, when people around you are changing things, you cannot just assume that what they're feeling and what they're doing is totally unreasonable. You have to realize that you were actually the one you're the one that stuck them in that situation. It was your sin that caused them to do that. Now, if we were talking to them one-on-one, we could talk about how they need to be responding to your sin differently. But if people are acting differently around you because of your sin, you've got to realize that is one of the consequences of your sin. And this is the idea of giving your cheek to the one who strikes. Now, we're not saying that if they punch you that you should just sit there and continually take it. But obviously what Jesus is meaning is that we continually absorb what people do to us. We want to not retaliate in a sinful way. We want to retaliate in a godly way, and that's by absorbing as much as we possibly and humanly can. Let us pray that it has been a blessing to you, and I will come to you in the next video.